Hi everyone, Julian here today. I'm going to be showing you how to make XClub style modern rave music, kind of like trancey influence as well. As usual, you can grab the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video that you just heard in the intro is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab this. It's a great way to take your tracks to the next level immediately, right now. This is something you can really do that will actually help you today. So links at the top of the description. Thanks so much for the support, guys, and let's dive in. So we're at 136 BPM, a little bit faster, and the first thing we have would be the drums. Now, these are actually pretty straightforward 909 and a little bit of 808 sounds as well. So, it starts with a big fat 909 kick. Right, you can hear this is just like, again, like classic 909. Just super big and full, not like a short, like clicky one, but something very big and boomy. And it's also turned up pretty high too. And that's the first thing, like I think a lot of times when you hear these tracks you might think, oh, it's a little tiny drum machine kick or whatever. But again, like this is really engineered to be just a big, powerful kick, bigger than you would think. And it smacks through the whole mix. We have a nice 909 clap. You can see I made that a bit shorter for the groove. See, if it's too long, it doesn't really groove quite as well. A little bit of drum bus. We have these hi-hats, which there's actually quite a bit of detail. It's like these two are playing off of each other. So we got this one. Right, like that rhythm, there's a little bit of delay, and then this other one, you can hear it bounces off it, and it creates a really nice rhythm. We also have a little bit of reverb on the group. Then we have this 909 open hi-hat, which is quite a bit shortened. You can see it's just like that clap. You want like that nice short, punchy, kind of trancey groove. Right, it sits really well with the bass line. And then we have the ride, which you can hear kind of just sits on top of that 909 hi-hat. This is actually a 909 ride as well. And so that's the ride. I've got it going through my ultimate ride rack, which is basically just a bit of stereo widening. You can see, yeah, we've got like just a bit of spread, a bit of cutting out some nasty frequencies. And then the only other thing I've got is just a bit of side chaining it to this. Up here we have a little, it's just the kick, but it's like a little short part of it, and then we have it muted. So you can side chain it to that. And it'll sit really well with the groove. So then we have the bass line. So you can hear this directly bounces off the kick, right? It's just a simple old school trancey like bass line just on the upbeats. And this is kind of like the progression, right? Like it starts on this note, and then it goes down here and kind of hangs on that. And then at the end, we get that G, right? So this just gives you like this nice foundation for everything else. Like it can all just sit really well over this. As long as this bass line and the drums are like a really solid, simple groove like this, all that other melodic stuff works. So for the actual sound, this is actually a really simple sound. You don't need to do too much. It's just like a few little things you don't want to mess up, and a little bit of finesse work at the end that you probably wouldn't think of. So it's literally just a square wave inside of operator here, but it's just one waveform, so there's no FM happening, and then a low pass filter with a little envelope. Like that's all it is. You just want this little short, punchy waveform, just really about getting it to bounce off the kick nicely. Using that envelope. And that's all the sound is. And again, like I was saying, you know, this is something that can be easy to mess up. Like if you try to do too much here, you can end up with a sound that's just not going to be nearly as full or punchy or powerful as just that low pass square wave. That's just, like I said, fine tuning the decay and the sustain to really like bounce off of the kick nicely. That's where the work comes in, not in extra processing layers, but in sitting here, you know, and really getting that right amount of decay like that. So then the two things that you probably wouldn't think you're hearing that actually do make a nice big difference on this would be side chaining it and this EQ. Here's without these, then with them. And it's really subtle, but it makes that big difference because we're side chaining this here, so now it's just gonna like duck a little bit more behind the kick, and you're gonna get a little bit better groove there, right? But then also with the EQ cutting at 40 hertz, we're cutting a bunch of stuff that you really can't even hear. But see how when I turn that on, all of a sudden the groove just like bounces a lot more off of the kick. Versus with it off, the bass kind of weighs it down. So that's something you can do that's subtle, but it makes a big difference, and it can really bring like a lot of air to the bass. In a way, you may not even realize fully what's happening, but it's just like, again, that whole overall track is going to sit a lot nicer. So then we have the pad. And when I say the pad, it's really like using these chord stabs and sort of turning them into a pad. You can hear this gives you this nice trancey rhythm. And it's that contrast where you have the bass and the kick are just dun 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 dun, right? Like eighth notes. So then to add this burm, 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 like super syncopated rhythm here, you can see you're creating a lot of groove. So that's kind of how this fits. It's rhythmic and melodic. For the actual chords here, what we're getting is we're doing this D minor to F major basically, right? But I've inverted the F major, so I actually added this like major fourth here and just put it down an octave. And you can hear that kind of contrast off the chords that the bass line's playing. You don't always want those to be playing the same thing. That's part of the sound, I think. Now, for the actual sound, it's made with wavetable. We've got a saw wave and a square wave. And on the saw wave, we have this pulse width, where you can see I've got an envelope on the pulse width modulation. So that's how you're getting that, like, stabby sort of sound. If I turn off the second oscillator, you can really hear it. And then the second oscillator kind of fills that in a little more. And then there's also an envelope on the filter. We've got a ton of unison, a bunch of echo, this phaser, which is not moving around. Actually, you can see I turned the LFO off, but it's just working like a filter. Here's without it. And with it, it just sort of shapes the sound a little bit, makes it a bit more like sampled sounding, and then we just have a side chain. Then we have this operator stab, which I'm going to play with the chords. Right, so this is just like this classic trancey stab. If you listen to this with the bass line, you can really hear that groove where it's like the 8th note thing, and then this adding some 16th notes and some syncopation over it. Right, so this is just one note, and it's meant to put a little bit more emphasis on that 1/16th note. Like you can hear it kind of works together with those chord stabs, and it really brings that groove out. So with this one, again, you really just want to pick one note. This is doing A sharp here. And then it's just making a nice stabby sound that's gonna punch through, and also having the level right. Like you can hear, this isn't getting buried, you can hear it over the whole mix. So this is made with Operator, and what it is it's 3 sine waves. You can see all at different octaves, creating this like stabby, like I said, like very classic, like almost like a hard trance sort of sound. But the way you get that is through these envelopes, right? And then we have a low pass filter with an envelope on that, plus this hard shaper. So here's without the shaper. See, it's like that. And then the hard shaper gives it that like trancey, like crunch sort of sound. And yeah, you can see, then after that we just have a bit of drum bus, a little bit of delay and reverb, side chin, and then we're high passing it. Again, this just really helps to add to that rhythm. Then we have this ARP. So these guys use this type of sound a lot. Right, just sitting over the whole mix. So, for the actual notes on this one, what it is you pick like this one rhythm, like this, like in this case it's A sharp, D, and A. So it's kind of like this A sharp major 7. And then here we're doing like this G minor 7. Right? Because we got that 7th up there. And it's basically just arpeggiating these chords and just like like constantly going like that. And you can see that's another thing that sits really well with that like do-dun. Like you see how all these melodic elements, it's not just the drums, it's also all these melodic things coming together and these different rhythms making up that groove that you hear, right? It's not just in the drums. Now for the sound, this one's made with Operator. So it's a square wave with a bit of FM from the 2 sine waves here. You can see they're at different octaves. Having the second one a few octaves down from the first one is really what gives you that type of sound. You can see, you know, it's just a good way to make like a more unique, almost like square wavy sound. Then we have a low pass filter to kind of like dull that down a little. A little bit of delay and reverb, some vibrato to make it like really warped sounding. I have a high pass filter, and then it's being side chained. And then the last thing here is this choir. So I'll play this with the chord progression. So what's happening here is it's just giving these like kind of big like pad, almost like stabs. Right at the beginning of every 4 bars like that. It's like you have these things that are constantly going, like your main groove. And then you just add that one thing over top that's not fighting for the same space, but is more sparse, and it's just like a big ambient melodic thing that's gonna sound beautiful over all that. And it just adds that extra layer of dimension that you need. So the way this one's made, as far as MIDI goes, is it's actually really simple chords. It's kind of just playing on different notes from the D minor scale, because again, that's the key we're in. You know, when you get to something like this, it's not so much about like specific chords as it is kind of creating these like melody chords where it's different notes that are always in this scale, right? Like, you know, we got our root note, minor 3rd, 5th, 6th, minor 7th, another 6th down there. It's all like you hear super musical together, and then you just put those together and you create these chords, and then that over top of the progression. Again, you can hear that musical texture there. This is made using this airy choir sample. It's literally just a sample of like this vocal thing. You know, it gives you a nice kind of old school texture if you just use a sample like that. Also, that's kind of why we do that versus using like a big sample library from like Nexus or some modern sounding thing like that. You know, this really gives you that like crunchy old school 90s rave vibe to it. We got just a little bit of reverb, sidechain, and that's it for the choir. And that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description on my website. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Every little bit helps. I really don't make a whole lot off of YouTube. You'd be surprised, especially for all the work I'm putting in. But by grabbing this, you can help support me and keep me going so I can keep bringing you guys new videos like this every day on stuff that is not out there on YouTube. I know there's not another tutorial like this. So definitely go support, but it also really helps support yourself. You know, it's not just about creating something for me to sell. I'm genuinely trying to make the highest quality templates on the market that can help you guys make the best music of your lives today so that you can feel unstuck or maybe just some new inspiration if you need it, but something actually very useful to you guys. So definitely go grab that. Link is at the top of the description. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Also, go ahead and book a lesson, ghost production, custom tutorial, track finishing. Link for all that is up there as well. Thank you so much for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.